Hey there, you me and DC fans, and welcome if you're new. I am the stepson of Krypton,
And I am Mantis.
and today we are discussing Superman and its 2 week notice. That's right. As of recording today, it has been out about 2 weeks. And I say about, if we want to count the 8th, where they did the early screening for Amazon Prime members who bought the early tickets, we are 15 days, but right now, really, we're at like 14 days of actual theater time from what like Box Office Mojo will consider its earliest release on the 9th. So, Mantis, this was obviously a very hot button issue in the comments on our last video where we talked about the opening weekend numbers. Are you ready to get into the discussion about the second weekend numbers?
Absolutely.
All right, let's not waste any more time, guys. We're just going to get right on into it. All right, guys. So we are about 14 days. We'll give it 15, so nobody accuses me of trying to give it more credit than it's supposed to have when it comes to its box office number. So if we count from the early Amazon Prime release, we are 15 days into the Superman movie, and it's sitting at about 416 million. Now that doesn't include today because obviously from recording we have the numbers from, well, I guess, where it ended yesterday. So as of Wednesday here, it was 416 million. Mantis, what are your thoughts on the numbers thus far?
I can't remember. I'm trying to remember what we said last week on what we expected it to do because, again, this past weekend it was up against I Know What You Did Last Summer and Smurfs were kind of the two main other competition it had in there. And we said it really wasn't, those two were not really going to push in on any, encroach on any territory that Superman had there, which I don't think it did. Um, you know, 416 is still not fantastic, but again, we see why when you look at that percentage rate between the domestic and international numbers.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it did come up. It was when we did the previous video, it was 95 million, and now we're at 173 million. But obviously, it gained more in that time span domestically than it did internationally, which is kind of odd because when you think about like with Man of Steel, it almost, I don't want to say double, but I mean, it had substantially more on its international side. Now, I will say this: we did have a comment on that previous video that said, "Oh, Man of Steel did 670 million. This has only done 400 million. It's a complete flop." Okay, Man of Steel was in theaters for 97 days, right? This has been 14. If you want to count the one showing Amazon Prime did on the 8th, we'll give you 15. I will give you 15.
Mm-hmm.
97 versus 15. Okay, it's not a fair comparison right now. Now, am I saying the movie's doing great in theaters? No, obviously, we were all looking for it. And what we did say in the previous video, we were expecting to be in that 600, maybe encroaching on the 700 million range is kind of where you, to be honest, it's where you expect a movie like this to be, at least, right? Now, I did say in a previous video that, before the movie had released, you're really, when you're talking about big superheroes, you're kind of not really anything unless you hit that billion mark, right? Like people are still going to give you shit unless you hit the billion mark
Mm-hmm.
because we see those random ones like the Aquaman that hit a billion. You've got like the Dark Knight, like you get into that club because everybody's going to compare you to the Avengers movies and things of that nature. This one, I there's no way I see it hitting $1 billion unless it just starts ramping up overseas. I know Gunn had made some comments about why he was given some speculation as to why he thinks it's doing so poorly internationally, but we're not going to go into that. It causes too much hate with people. So I just, I don't know. Like, yeah, I was expecting to do a little more. However, I will say though, in comparison, it's done better in the first 2 weeks than any other Superman movie has.
Mm-hmm.
And it's up against what I feel, at least personal opinion, guys, is the most scrutiny and hate of any Superman movie.
Yeah, it's funny. We talked about this for the longest time leading up to this release about infighting in DC, and you don't really see that in Marvel. You don't even really see DC versus Marvel hate. Like that doesn't even really exist. It's literally like Snyder versus Bros versus everybody. It's the weirdest thing. I don't understand it. We've both said, I'm pretty sure Like I like both of the movies because these are the. I'm not going to beat around the bush. We're talking about Superman and Man of Steel here because that's what apparently we compare it to. We don't compare it to anything else. We just compare it to Man of Steel because it's the most recent. But like I like both movies. And again, we're in a different time period here. I will say to kind of throw a bone to the other side, there was a comment in our last video that mentioned, and you mentioned this too, about the price of tickets being so high. Now, while that does give you more per ticket, it also disincentivizes people, especially families, to go out and buy tickets because it's not only the ticket prices that have increased; it's the Coke, the soda, the popcorn. You mentioned like we both spent $31 just on the souvenir stuff, and then if you wanted like the crypto bucket, it was like 50 something dollars, and it was like the size of normal 16-ounce glass, basically. So there's all these extra things that get funneled in there. It's hard to do it on a case by case basis like that with so much time in between various things, world events going on. Apparently, one of our commenters thought it could be the weather, which is possible, very possible that it could have been the weather. Um, but I think we'll be able to tell a little bit more, especially with one of the things I think that could be causing it is superhero fatigue. I know we kind of downplayed that. If it's a good movie, people will go watch it, and it's not like people are running away from this movie. They're definitely going and seeing it still. But I think once we see the numbers for Fantastic Four this weekend on its opening weekend, which I think they're projecting that around 190 to 210 million worldwide for the first weekend for Fantastic Four. So we'll get to see how it performs up against Marvel and if it really is superhero fatigue. So
Well, and the thing was going up against a movie like that. Obviously, you're in a very, very well-established MCU universe that has introduced all of these characters over time. Obviously, Marvel's kind of done this, where here this is rebirthing a new universe. So people are excited to see Galactus. They're excited to see what everybody's believing. You're going to see at least Doctor Doom in some fashion somewhere throughout this movie, or at least they're going to start mentioning him to get you ready for Avengers Doomsday. So and in Marvel, those are some of the biggest characters that people get really, really excited about, right? Whereas this is a birthing a new universe. The one thing I will say though in birthing a new universe is that even still, it's got like a 90. I'm pretty sure it's like a 92% on the audience score, and we're still holding at that 83% on the critic score, which we knew that wouldn't change much after the movie released. But it's still holding pretty strong on that, which means the people that are continuing to go see it, and we did have some people comment that they've seen it multiple times. I know I plan to see it again. I know Mantis had talked about going to see it again. I just got to get like a home equity line of credit to go maybe get another popcorn bucket. But so like people who watched it seem to really enjoy it, right? And I could be wrong, but it seems, and I'm not saying in our comment section necessarily, but it just seems that the negative comments are people who didn't even go see it that just don't like it, right? Just don't like what it's about. So it's kind of like, yeah, well, you didn't go see it, you didn't buy a ticket for it. So again, the people who are watching it like the movie. It's just, is it getting that chance?
Yeah, the what was the stat I found from Deadline, or not Deadline, a screen share. This is a survey done across with Screen Engine, ASI, and the Wrap. They through ages, I think it said 16 to 62. Right now, audiences are most excited about Superman. The number of mentions is at 7.8%, which is down from the previous week, but it's even the next closest one is Fantastic Four or First Steps, and it's at 4.3% mentions. So people are still talking about it, which we mentioned about the word of mouth from this movie because the marketing was god awful. So people are going and seeing it, they're liking it, they're talking about it, and they're continuing to talk about it clearly. And that's, I think, going to keep rolling, like you mentioned, through the next weeks or so.
No, it is up against a significant challenge having a movie, even with the Marvel. Because I think we talk about superhero fatigue. I think a lot of people hit Marvel fatigue for sure, right? Because
Hmm.
there's so many movies that you kind of have to see and shows you have to watch to kind of feel like you're a part of this whole universe. And obviously, they've had several missteps in what they're doing with certain characters and certain movies and such. So I think people kind of got a little burnt out because like Thunderbolts didn't do well. I say it didn't do well. It didn't do, obviously these types of numbers at the box office like some of these bigger movies we're talking about, but it did great coming into streaming and,
Hmm.
people paying for it and they actually really kind of like the movie. Now, I will say from just some of the snippets I've seen, a lot of people are like, it's the century and it's the very end of the movie. That's the best part. But it is getting more love on the streaming versus out in theaters. And that could be, again, the Marvel fatigue of it all. It could be, as Mantis said, it could be the superhero fatigue of it all. I don't know. I think if we give it another almost 80 days in theaters, I think we're going to see that number come up. I don't think it's going to have any problem hitting the 600 million unless literally overseas, all international just dies off and it's just not going to get there, then maybe it'll struggle. But I have no doubt that it'll at least get into the 600 millions mark by the time it leaves. And or if it just doesn't stay in theaters very long, they keep it in there 28 days. Well,
Hmm.
we've got 2 weeks left, kind of screwed. I don't think we'll
Right.
get there. But if it stays anywhere close to what Man of Steel and what some of the other bigger blockbusters did, um, I think it has a chance because, now this number I say, so I got this number from Deadline. The article said that it dropped 53%. I have seen other articles reference it going all the way up to 57% from opening weekend. So
Hmm.
now, while that might seem like a big drop for a blockbuster movie, that's not. I mean, that's not outside the norm because for those who remember, like when Avengers Endgame released, it dropped 59% to its second weekend, right? Captain America, the Brave New World. I mean, it was 68 to almost 70% drop from its uh, second weekend. You've had a lot of other, like currently in superhero movies, it's been in the 60s plus percent on what it's dropped on second weekend. So the fact that this, if let's just say of the range, 53 to 57%, because I don't have the exact numbers of what it exactly did from the weekend, both domestically and internationally. And then even domestically, some have it at 58.8 million, others have it at 57. So that's why we got
Hmm.
that little bit of a range there. So, but in between the 53 to 57 range, like that's not out of the realm of even your normal big blockbuster movie.
Yeah, it's
So it's
performing on average or a little bit above average than normal. So I mean,
That is a bit above average.
it's right on par. It's not like I don't even consider it a flop. I mean, there's people saying like the amount of money that this movie costs was 200 and whatever million, and they're like, well, that didn't include marketing and all this stuff because they're going to write it off. And it's like, okay, you can say that every studio does that. Every studio does that. So like,
well, and to be fair, and again, because we do look at things, as a whole here. Like we're not just, oh my god, we love Superman movie, it's the greatest thing in the world. Currently, right now, it hasn't made back its money yet because again, you got to figure the theater's taking close to 50% on your average blockbuster movie of it. So if we're sitting at 416 million right now, you're at about 208 million. The movie cost anywhere between 225 to 250 million. I know there's been some discrepancy, and even somebody pointed out in the comments that it seems like they were lowering the budget of what the movie costs to make. And it's funny because Box Office Mojo normally has the number up there. It's not right now. So between, again, I'll give the range between 225 to 250 million. It hasn't obviously made that back yet, but again, we are 14 days. I'll give you 14 and a half. Let's compromise. Let's just say 14 and a half days in on this movie. I have no doubt that it will get there, including what it spent on marketing as well. But I will say I don't think it's a grand slam
yeah,
of a movie. Now,
yeah.
go
Okay.
ahead. No, you go ahead.
No,
I
you
was
got.
going to launch into a
You got.
completely different point.
Oh, well, I was
Uh,
too. Well, you mentioned streaming previously. I was just going to say there are some other caveats to this, which is I thought were kind of funny. Uh, the movie coming out has revitalized this wanting to know Superman and watch Superman because and this is from Deadline too, but like the Super Slash Man, the documentary about Christopher Reeve, the percentage
If
of
you have
that,
not watched that, go watch that. That is amazing. I love that.
yeah, the watch percentage of that has gone up 1,200% on HBO Max. Superman the movie has gone up 332%. Man of Steel is 218%, and Peacemaker is 91%. All of those have just skyrocketed viewership on HBO Max because of the release of this. Um, and then there's this
Even
kind of funny.
dog adoptions have gone crazy.
Yeah. There's a 500% surge in dog adoptions right after the movie released. Again, yes, adopt pets, but don't just adopt them because you saw crypto. Okay, I'm sure all the parents out there know. Oh, I want a puppy. It's gonna end up being your puppy, not your kid's puppy, or even your significant other's puppy who say they want it. It's gonna be your puppy. But either way, I just some residual effects there of that I thought was kind of interesting.
So, and I do love seeing that again. Adopt for the right reason. Don't adopt, and then 2 weeks later, once the kind of hype dies down, you don't want it anymore. But
Right.
I'll say this, kind of like my overall thoughts of the movie. I love the movie. I thought it was a great Superman movie. I will say, my favorite Superman is Christopher Reeve. That's not going to change. I love the Christopher Reeve Superman. I love his portrayal of the character. I love that original movie. That is always going to be my favorite. Just it holds that place in my heart, and it's just not going to be dethroned. I'm sorry. Do I love Man of Steel? Yeah, that's a great movie. Do I love this movie? Yeah, all of those can be true at the same time because realistically they're all portraying the same character but in completely different lights. Like the Superman, the original 1978 Christopher Reeve Superman was taking Superman and bringing this mythological godlike character into the real world, right? That was the whole point. It was just a normal city and world that had this being that could do all of these things. Man is still kind of did the same thing but on a more darker nowadays tone. Whereas David Corenswet's Superman is bringing you and us into a fantasy world of where all of these amazing, fantastical beings exist and things like that. So it's different. They're all different. It doesn't make one worse than the other or that, oh, you can't love both of them. Right? It's not like you're trying to recreate Christopher Reeve Superman and you're like, this sucks because he did a terrible job. All right, sorry.
Yeah. No, I was gonna say it's a completely different setup too. Like this movie, the Superman 2005 movie, um, you know, Superman.
2025.
Sorry, yeah, not 2005, it's 2025. ah,
Like, give me one more year, you got Superman Returns, but that didn't do
yeah,
well either.
yeah. Which I like that movie too, for various reasons. But it's
Parts.
like this movie has not only an established presence of superheroes in it. It's art like that's already happened. These other Superman movies, that wasn't a thing. They were like, well, an alien, how'd this happen? Like, oh my gosh, what is this guy doing? Like, completely different setup. And also, this movie has more than just Superman in it. There are multiple heroes and storylines being kind of laid down, I think, in this film that we will find out more about in the coming spinoff. I saw that I forget the guy's name that plays Mr. Terrific, but he signed to a multi-film deal recently, I think. So, you're probably going to see more of that. I mean, we've talked about the Lanterns and how they're intertwining these characters. So you're not only trying to show Superman off, but you're laying the groundwork for this entire DCU, and you're going to take a hit with that in this film. Like, there's people complaining that they didn't like the Justice Gang in there. They wanted a Superman movie, and I get that. I think the thing is, James Gunn, excuse me, and DC Studios is willing to take a hit on some of that stuff to lay the groundwork for their other projects that they are going to make a lot more money with. I think
Now,
people just need to understand part of that. Yeah.
I will say I've seen some articles on it, and I 100% agree. Like, we never got a sequel with Man of Steel, right? I
Mhm.
think we need a sequel to Superman, and it needs to be a standalone Superman movie, right? I think we deserve that because again, yeah, we didn't get a sequel to, and now that obviously there's going to be more crossover at least mentions and talk of Superman in these other properties, that he deserves to get a standalone sequel, right? Because
Mhm.
you'll have established these characters. At least that's what I would love to see. Because I do want one. I love how James Gunn did this to set up all of these different properties that are coming out, back to back. But I do want to see a standalone Superman
I
sequel.
agree. I agree. I think he deserves his own kind of his own thing, so to speak. It's just this movie, for better or worse, that's the direction they decided to go with it. Even comparing it to like a reboot of a universe or a creation of one, like Iron Man, right, with Marvel. They're really, I mean, it's been so long since I've seen that movie. I think you do get uh, Samuel Jackson at the end of that movie, correct?
Of
Of Iron Man, the first Iron Man movie.
the original Iron Man, I don't think you see Samuel Jackson to the second one.
Okay. So, and light me up in the comments, guys, because I literally cannot remember because it's been so long since I've seen Iron Man. But they didn't have any type of laying the groundwork for their other properties in that movie.
I
Um,
don't I don't think, other than him being him saying at the very end he's Iron Man, because it was the second one that Nick Fury comes in when he's kind of going through his midlife crisis of, the palladium was poisoning him, right? And you
mm,
saw that, and then at the end of, well, kind of towards the end, you have Phil Coulson, and he's going to New Mexico to investigate Thor's hammer that had just crashed down. So that was breaching into the Thor movie. I don't think, could be wrong, it's been a while too. Yeah, it didn't branch out into any set up any other movies.
so they're taking on that extra weight in this film. So I mean, better or worse, that's what they decided to do. I know there's several people that didn't particularly like that, but it's funny enough. It's kind of the same people that hate the movie regardless. So,
And you're
you
gonna
know,
have that. And guys, here's the kind of thing. Wrap it up. Like, we appreciate everybody who watched the previous video we did on the first week box office numbers. We love all of the comments. I'll say I feel like for the most part everybody was being at least respectful to in the comments. That's all we usually ask. However, we don't delete any. You're allowed to say whatever you want to in there. We love the at least the ability to voice your own opinion in the comments. I thought everybody did great. So thank you very, very much for that. In this particular one, let us know, how are you feeling about the movie after kind of getting the second week numbers. Now, I will say, to these numbers I'm giving you, when I say the 460 million, that is as of Tuesday. That is like as of yesterday. That's not how it ended from the weekend, right? That's
mhm,
including at least, or I think it's
Monday.
updated to at least Tuesday, so it's including Mondays and such in there.
Mhm.
So, but let us know down in the comments. How are you feeling about the numbers thus far, and just, what do you feel about, like, that the hate that it just is getting for, in my opinion, I don't think it's warranted. I understand people have their opinions, you're allowed to, but just the hate is, I feel like, unwarranted. You can dislike the movie and just be like, you know what, no, it wasn't my vibe. But the hate is just is kind of another thing, because it just seems like it doesn't, to me, it doesn't really make sense, because everything, the hateful comments I've seen, they don't really seem to kind of add up, right? But that's just me. Could be fucking crazy. All right, guys, we're gonna go ahead and wrap things up. If you have made it with us this far, we definitely do appreciate it. Consider giving the video a like. We're both showing you where, right in the crotch area, crotchal
Yes,
region.
down there.
Subscribing to the channel. We want to thank all of our new subscribers, especially all of those that came off that last video. However, we still love all of our subscribers that have been with us since the beginning. We thank you all. Make sure you have your bell notifications clicked so you will get updated as we continue to track the progress of Superman. And when we finally get the numbers back, see how it fared on its third weekend against Galactus. So, Mantis, do you have anything else?
Nope.
All right. Then that is going to wrap it on this episode of You, Me, and DC. Until next time, guys, we'll see you then.
Later.